Hello everyone. How are you doing? I hope things are fine at your place and you are going good also. Your preparation for the one who are giving 2025 attempt. Things are going well. You are preparing with proper schedule. You are revising and you are up to yes, you have to be completely prelims oriented. So give as much test as possible. Work on your weakness. And if you are facing any doubt, there is a currently course that is being run by Shriram's IS for prelims mastery course. So आपको ना यहाँ पर screens पे contact number दिख रहा होगा. You can refer this number and they'll give you the complete detailing of the course that have everything dealing with your prelims. So you can refer that also. आज के सेशन में हम बात करेंगे नेशनल बोर्ड फॉर वाइल्ड लाइफ, इंडिया मिडिल ईस्ट यूरोप इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर, कलरीपट्टू, ग्रेट बैरियर रीफ, वर्ल्ड एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड सोशल आउटलुक. दिस पर्टिकुलर आर्टिकल एंड दिस आर्टिकल मीन्स कोरल रीफ्स के बारे में भी इसके साथ में डिस्कस करेंगे. स्टैटिक पार्ट फ्रॉम एनवायरमेंट सेक्शन जीएस पेपर 3 एज वेल. ठीक है. सो रेस्ट प्रीलिम्स से जुड़े हुए भी आर्टिकल्स हैं. यू कैन ट्रस्ट द प्लेटफॉर्म, यू कैन ट्रस्ट द कंटेंट दैट इज बीइंग शेयर्ड विद यू. श्रीराम्स आईएएस इज सर्विंग द नेशन सिंस 1985. लेट अदर्स नो अबाउट इट and you have comment section. You can share your feedbacks, mark your attendance by liking this lecture. There is a thumbs up sign, you'll click on it and your attendance will be marked, right? And do subscribe to the channel so that you get the notification of every session that gets published by other faculties are also taking other series, so you will get the notification and you can watch it whenever that session gets published. Moving ahead with the very first article. National Board for Wildlife has denied Uttarakhand government's proposal for soapstone mining near Kedarnath Wildlife Sanctuary, a habitat for endangered species. So basically, very clear from the context. So we'll talk about National Board for Wildlife, and it is in news because this board oversees the protection of wildlife, the habitats in India. And recently this board has rejected the proposal, and that proposal was from Uttarakhand government. That proposal was to allow soapstone mining near Kedarnath Wildlife Sanctuary. But this sanctuary is home to many of the endangered species that are at the risk of extinction also. So if you are allowing mining near these protected areas, it could harm the wildlife and it could disturb the delicate ecosystem. That is why this proposal is denied. But we'll talk about National Board for Wildlife. Now first of all, this board is constituted by central government. ठीक है. It is a very important organization. It is created by central government. Which section deals with it? Section 5A of Wildlife Protection Act 1972. So central government is there, this section is there, and which act? Wildlife Protection Act. Now this board was constituted through an amendment of the Wildlife Protection Act 2022. May there was an amendment, and officially it came into existence after this 2022 ka amendment, right? Now it replaced Indian Board for Wildlife that was formed in 1952. This board replaced that. What does this board do? It is a top level advisory body to the government for wildlife conservation. Its job is to guide the government how to protect wildlife, especially in the areas like protected areas, particularly within the protected areas, right? So it is responsible for guiding the government's decision on all the matters that are related to wildlife conservation and issuing the approvals for the projects in the protected areas also. So basically it has the power to decide ki whether certain activities can happen in the protected area or not. So they give approval also. See, without the board's approval or recommendation, the government cannot allow certain things. So basically, here you see, the WLPA mandates that without the approval of this board, without the recommendation of this board, there are certain things that cannot be allowed, like building tourist lodge or changing the boundary of that area or destroying that or using that wildlife habitat, you can say, for roads and dams or mines, right? Denotifying a tiger reserve. So everything, these certain things will be done only after the approval of this board. Now this board has 47 member committee that is headed by the Prime Minister. And who is the vice chairperson? Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. In addition to the offices and the institutions that are involved in the protection of wildlife, this board also has Chief of the Army Staff इसमें है, Defense Secretary, Expenditure Secretary to the Government of India, they all are the members. Central government here nominates 10 members who are conservationists, ecologists, environmentalists, and the additional Director General of Forest and Director Wildlife Preservation is the member. Who is the member secretary to the board? How many members central government nominates? Total member are how many? Who is the chairperson? Who is the vice chairperson? These all are the basic facts that you have to remember. Now there is a standing committee of this board. Very important. Prelims may questions can be asked. Now standing committee is an independent body that works under this larger board. Now it is made up of not more than 10 members. इस स्टैंडिंग कमेटी को चेयर करने वाले होते हैं मिनिस्टर ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, फॉरेस्ट एंड क्लाइमेट चेंज. स्टैंडिंग कमेटी is completely a project clearance body. What does it do? It is only focusing on giving approvals for specific projects. For example, if a project like building a road or mine that might affect the protected area, this committee decides whether it can go ahead or not. So it is a project clearance body. Okay, that was all about it. I hope things are clear. Before moving ahead with the next article, let me tell you, Shriram YS has come up with this great podcast series, a new series that is launched on the platform where best of faculties are there and they will have this podcast. Episode 1 is out. You can have a look over it and there are other episodes on the way. Do subscribe to the channel. See, through their podcast, you can write your points that will help you in your mains and interview also. Geopolitical dialogues are there. Okay, why is West Asia always in the crisis? What are the reasons behind it? Everything. Basically, rational analysis of the topics are done. So you can refer them and let others know also. Okay. Apart from that, there are other series going on taken by other faculties for the current affairs also. So once again, do subscribe and have a look over it. They're definitely going to help you. Former US President Joe Biden highlighted what? The potential realization of this India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor following the Israel-Hamas ceasefire. So basically, the former US President Joe Biden emphasized the possibility of moving forward with this economic corridor after the fight between Hamas and the Israel. They have an agreement, ceasefire in the place. We'll discuss about IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. It is a trade corridor. Here you can see in the picture. It is connecting India to the Middle East to the Europe. That way and this way. So Israel is coming in between. That is why they are discussing about that. See, the conflict between the Israel and Hamas, it disrupted the peace and the stability in the region. Right? So these big projects were very difficult to implement. Now Biden is suggesting that once the fighting stops, efforts to realize IMEC can progress, it can foster cooperation, it can foster economic development across these regions. So you can work on that and its potential basically. So IMEC, will talk about it in detail. It is a connectivity project where you will have a seamless connectivity that it will develop. Infrastructure includes ports and railways and roads and sea lines and pipelines. Everything is being done to enhance the trade between India, Arabian Peninsula, Mediterranean region and Europe. When there was a G20 meeting in New Delhi, on the sidelines of that, this particular corridor was announced in 2023. When a MOU was signed between European Union and 7 countries. And what were those 7 countries? You have to remember the name. Yes. India, US, Saudi Arabia, UAE and France and Germany and Italy. Okay. So now this IMEC, I'll refer it as corridor. This corridor will comprise 2 separate corridors, the Eastern Corridor and the Northern Corridor. Eastern Corridor will connect India to the Arabian Gulf and the Northern Corridor will connect the Gulf to the Europe. Okay. So So there are two main routes, eastern and northern. Eastern will connect India to the Middle East and north will connect that Arabian Gulf, that Middle East to the further Europe. ठीक है. Now and upon completion, क्योंकि that part is left ना, Israel was there and there was instability also. So upon the completion, the corridor will have a cost-effective and reliable cross-border railway network also. Yes, railway network will be reliable, it will be cost-effective, it will be supported by roads and shipping routes. Like seamless connectivity will be there among the countries. Ships will travel from Mumbai and Mundra in Gujarat to UAE. From there, a rail network will be there that will connect UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan to the Israeli port. Right? Goods can travel further into the Europe via Mediterranean Sea. So it will include road, rail and sea route. Okay? That further it will have that connectivity. It is important because it will create a faster, a cheaper and a more reliable way to move your goods from Asia to the Middle East to the Europe. This corridor will strengthen trade, energy supply, economic partnership between the participating regions. So it is a modern alternative, you can say, to the existing trade routes. Okay? What are the extra features along the corridor? Electricity grids, optical fiber cables for digital connectivity, pipeline for the transportation of hydrogen gas. Overall, what are the benefits? 5 to 6 benefits. It will reduce cost, it will secure the regional supply chain, efficiency will get increased, increase the trade accessibility, enhance economic cooperation, it will generate jobs, there will be lower lower greenhouse gas emissions. Participating countries will work more closely, they will boost their economy, right? The Partnership for Global Infrastructure and Investment, that is a project led by United States, will provide funding and support to it. Okay. Now moving ahead to the next article where we'll discuss Kerala's martial art. They will simply give you in prelims Kalaripattu martial art of which state, 1, 2, 3, 4 or match the following may they will give you. Kerala's martial art hai, that has become a bone of contention ahead of 38th edition of the National Games, which is scheduled to commence from 28th of January in Uttarakhand. So 28th of January Uttarakhand ke andar there will be National Games, there will be 38th edition and this martial art is a bone of contention. But why? What is the reason? Why the debates are there? We'll not go into that. We'll talk about Kalaripattu. It is a martial art from Kerala and one of the oldest and the most scientific, you can say, minding martial art. Most scientific in the world. Here you have this mind and body coordination that is all required. It is widely practiced in Kerala. Kalari means in Malayalam gymnasium and Pattu is taught, meaning of that. Mythology, according to mythology, Parsuram is credited with establishing Kalaripattu. This martial art is found in 3 regions of northern Kerala. Within Tirupur style, Arapukki style and Pilangthangi style. Sorry if I'm pronouncing them wrong in the local in that language, but I hope you're getting it. And it is believed that Kalaripattu was introduced to China also at their Shaolin temple in 5th century AD by Bodhidharma, who was originally from Thanjavur. That is a cultural center, part of Kerala, but now it is in Tamil Nadu. See, in Kalaripattu, if you see the picture, you will get to understand that there is a body conditioning where students prepare their bodies for the combat, build strength, flexibility, coordination. They learn how to attack, how to defend using those weapons. Basic combat skills, right? So that is what this martial art is all about. Please do revise. Whatever we cover, when I end the session, you give just 5 minutes and revise whatever we have covered. That will give you a crisp summary in your mind. That will stay for 4 to 5 days. Yeah. But you have to revise it again. So multiple revisions are required. Whatever you cover for prelims, now prelims is coming closer. As many revisions as you give, as many tests you give, that will boost your score, but we undermine the power of revision. So please do revise. ठीक है. Now coming to the next article, that is about Great Barrier Reef. Life on Great Barrier Reef is experiencing shift that is caused by the climate change and various human generated factors. See what a beautiful picture it is. Before talking about Great Barrier Reef, I hope that you all know about coral reef, because this Great Barrier Reef, what it is the largest coral reef system in the world, the longest coral reef system in the world. Now what is coral reef? Coral reef, you see, it is this underwater ecosystem that is made up of colonies of tiny, these are not plants, these are animals, and that are called coral polyps. How beautiful color they are getting now. They are, these polyps secrete a very hard calcium carbonate exoskeleton. These coral reefs you will find in tropical and subtropical oceans, particularly in warm and shallow waters. यहाँ से UPSC have asked a question. These coral reefs are created by millions of coral polyps, beautiful coral polyps, which are small, right? They have a symbiotic relationship with whom? With zooxanthellae. How? See, the algae photosynthesizes, this zooxanthellae, that is algae only, this algae photosynthesizes and produce food for them, and in return coral provides the algae with that environment, that access to the nutrient, and these algae, they live inside their tissues, you can say. ठीक है, sorted है. Now climate change क्या कर रहा है इन पे? Coral bleaching. See, when water temperature due to the climate change it rises, corals, they expel the algae that are living in their tissues, and when they expel that, khana nahi mila, you can think of like that, corals lose their color and they become more vulnerable to disease and death. Coral bleaching does not directly mean death, but when they bleach, when they lose their color, they become vulnerable to death and disease. Chances are very, very much. Ocean acidification is one of the threat. Higher levels of carbon dioxide in the oceans make the water acidic, which weakens the coral skeletons. Pollution, overfishing, whatnot. Resorts and ports ki construction, this coastal development along the coastline that changes the water flow, it harms the coral ecosystem. Tourism. There are various reasons, right? See, agar मैं चाहती तो I would have taught you Great Barrier Reef and I would have taken the next article, but that is not the complete article in itself. So you have to take a 360-degree approach. If Great Barrier Reef is coming, why not just have 5 minutes and have a quick revision of coral reefs also? So I think Great Barrier Reef is just a cakewalk for you. What is Great Barrier Reef? It is a complex of coral reefs, right? Where they are? In the northeastern coast of Australia, in the Coral Sea. They are, and the islets in the Pacific Ocean. Excuse me. Right? What else it is written? It is the largest and the longest coral reef complex in the world. It is an area of 350,000 square kilometer. It makes 10% of the world's coral reef system. It is visible from the space. It is made up of 3,000 individual reefs, and they are of two main types. Platform reef, number 1, and number 2, wall reef. Platform reef, they grow out in a radial pattern, and wall reef, these form in the areas where there are very strong water currents. ठीक है? This large part of the reef is protected as a marine park by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority of Australia. 1981 में UNESCO recognized it as a World Heritage Site also. Here it is. ठीक है. Now moving ahead with the last article of today's session, International Labour Organization published World Employment and Social Outlook Trend 2025 in Geneva. So ये कौन publish करता है? ILO. World Employment and Social Outlook gives a detailed analysis of the state of global labor market, highlighting the key trends and the challenges. Why there is a slowdown, why there are problems the world is facing regarding the work, regarding the employment. This report gives you the complete picture. Now, what this report says? In 2024, they say that global employment grew in line with the labor force, keeping the unemployment rate steady at 5%. Meaning the number of jobs worldwide, they grew at the same rate as the working age population. Unemployment was steady. The report says that there are several challenges that are affecting the recovery of the job. What are those? Geopolitical tensions, conflicts between the countries. Climate change definitely impacts the economic section also. It increases the expenses and it strains the economies also. Unresolved debt issues are also the challenges. Countries which are struggling with these unresolved debt issues, it is harder for these challenges make hard for the job market to improve. They are putting pressure on the workforce globally. Now, what else this report says? Labor force participation ko leke. Labor force participation rate have dropped in the low income countries while increasing in the high income nations. Fewer people are joining the workforce in low income countries. Labor market participation is decreasing. High income it is increasing. Especially the older workers and the women. Their participation is increasing in the high income countries. What else it suggests? It urged these members to boost your productivity, invest in skill training, in education, support economic growth, expand social protection, give better social security and working conditions to reduce inequality, and use private funds effectively also. Low-income countries can harness the remittances and the diaspora funds to support local development. So remittances, money that is sent by the family members who are working abroad, diaspora funds, money from the people who have moved to other countries. So they are suggesting that use them to support local development. They can help improve the economy. They can help create the job in the home countries also. Right? So this was the whole session. I hope things are clear. In case you are having any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section. And for more such videos, do subscribe to the channel. This is your mentor Arzu Kakkad signing off. All the best. Happy learning. Thank you.